Okay, so the news broke late last week that Red Scare podcast host Dasha Nekrasova has been dropped by her Hollywood talent agency, as well as a film that she was slated to be cast in called Iconoclast. And the reason for that is a controversial guest that they featured on the show whose name rhymes with Nick Fuentes. And the news broke in Variety. They, in the headline, put, Gersh drops Succession actress Dasha Nekrasova after podcast with white nationalist Nick Fuentes. So this actually turned out to be the result of a years-long campaign by one individual man who had a hatred for Dasha and her co-host Anna Kachian.
If this guy,
a whole group of guests that they've had on their show over the years.
You'll understand what I'm talking about when we get through this. Like, if it wasn't for the absolute bitch-made nature of his complaining, I would actually have to respect his the dedication this man had to just not letting this one person live their life.
Yeah, so her talent agency, Gersh, had to cave to the pressure eventually because this guy was going public with it on his Instagram. His name is, let's see here, Jonathan Daniel Brown. His campaign against Dasha began in August of 2023, according to The Hollywood Reporter.
2 years ago now.
He once was an actor and had some success, and most notably had a role in the 2012 comedy Project X, but finding himself disillusioned with the acting world, transitioned to producing, most recently with the comedy horror titled F My Son. Okay. But Brown was not in a laughing mood when he wrote his email to Gersh, an agency to which he has no formal ties. He had been tracking one of their clients, Dasha, for some time.
What are you in the CIA? Why are you tracking anybody?
Like, get a life,
weirdo.
dude. So here they say, launched in 2018 with Anna Kachian, a Moscow-born cultural critic who immigrated to the U.S. in 1990. The podcast originally was associated with the socialist ideals of the Bernie Sanders-loving dirtbag left, as the movement called itself. But over the years, it evolved into a reaction against liberal wokeism and found itself gravitating to figures on the far right. And they have had mostly right-wing guests in recent years. They both, I believe, voted for Trump in the last election.
I remember you telling me about this podcast, and I was just like, wow, that sounds like something I would never listen to.
They have a mostly female audience, if I had to guess, and it's mostly like half of their episodes are behind a paywall. So people at Gersh and in Hollywood generally did not know that Nick Fuentes was on their podcast for at least a month afterwards.
Did you see the images of, like, from the Hollywood Reporter about, like, their podcast roundtable?
No.
So they did, I was just laughing at they used the word wokeism in there. Mm-hmm. They did this, like, podcast roundtable with, like, 6 of the biggest podcasters, like Dax Shepard.
Oh, yeah.
And Ben Shapiro's there. And there's this group photo. And Ben Shapiro's just kind of
he's like standing off to the
right.
side.
Like it's all in the body language. Like they're all leaning this way and Ben's like leaning that way. It's I just thought it was funny because it was in the Hollywood Reporter, so Ben was there.
Brown took notice and grew increasingly dismayed at who Red Scare invited on the podcast. In that first email to Gersh, he pointed out their client hosted a white nationalist guest who uses the pseudonym Bronze Age Pervert.
I remember you talking about this with Dane.
Yes.
I don't know who that is.
He used to be an anonymous shit poster.
Okay.
He still goes by the pseudonym, but everyone knows who he is now. He is an academic, actually, and it's funny that they say he was chronicled for his neo-Nazi beliefs because I believe he's actually Jewish in real life.
What's his bag then? Like, what does he focus on?
He wrote a book called Bronze Age Mindset.
I remember that.
Several years back, which was popular amongst the alt-right crowd online. I never read it, so I don't know the contents of the book, but they say in this episode, in this email that Jonathan wrote, in the episode I've linked, Dasha and Bronze Age Pervert discuss, quote unquote, he literally puts this in quote, black crime. After that, Bronze Age Pervert refers to the city of Chicago as Chicongo and Indians as Pajeets. calls mixed race Americans mulattoes and chimps, and makes various horrible comments about Africa, calls Barack Obama gay and uses the slur Obongo, praises white nationalists Richard Hanania and Steve Saylor, uses a number of slurs for Jews, and even defends Hitler. Other white supremacists and fascists who have recently appeared on the show include Sandy Hook denier Alex Jones.
How can he be a fascist? He's not even in the government.
Far-right podcaster, The Perfume Nationalist.
What the hell is that?
I have heard of that one. The alt-right technologist Curtis Yarvin and Steve Bannon. As an independent film producer and a member of the Jewish community, I cannot sit by in silence anymore. I ask that you do the right thing and condemn this hate. This cannot be what our industry is about. So this email back in 2023 was ghosted. He did not get a response from Gersh.
Yeah.
And they continued representing Dasha. And for a long time, she has tried to do this balancing act of being a controversial internet micro-celebrity as well as having a mainstream acting career that worked up until this month. So he says to the Hollywood Reporter in this new piece, you have Bronze Age pervert, you have Curtis Jarvin, you've got all these really nasty fascist bastards, and they're actively trying to infiltrate mainstream Hollywood via these it girls. Like, you just make them sound cooler than they actually are when you say that. But it was the 2.5-hour Red Scare episode released on October 10th featuring avowed anti-Semite and white nationalist Nick Fuentes that took Brown past the boiling point.
Wait, so he did this for 2 years and he wasn't at the boiling point yet?
No, he had not gotten even close. He says you have someone, Nick Fuentes he means, that is calling for the expulsion and deportation of all immigrants. This is somebody that actively hates Jewish people, that says Hitler was right, that the Holocaust was a hoax, and even if it wasn't a hoax, it probably should have happened. And then you have Dasha supporting this, and then you have Gersh, we're gonna make her a star. These are Jewish agents. What the F is wrong with them?
I will say that one of the things that people in the podcast space are finding is that eventually you will max out and you will have to find more and more, I guess, extreme voices. And eventually people are going to expect you to like push back on them a little bit if you disagree with them. And if you don't, they'll assume that they're going to take letting them talk as cosign because they view platforming as a thing, right? They view like just talking to somebody as platforming them. And the number one way I see things differently now than they would have been 30 years ago is there's a direct monetary incentive to any level of platforming. So it's supposed to be, at least in this guy's opinion, it should be held to a different standard. I don't agree, but I do expect most of the time when I see these interviews, whether it's Tucker Carlson interviewing Fuentes, people are going to be upset because they don't push back enough, even if they do. And I don't know because I don't watch Nick Fuentes, so I have no idea. But I do know that no amount of pushback is ever going to be enough unless it ends in like a fight.
No, that's actually just the gripe in disguise.
Yeah.
They're saying you didn't push back enough.
Why does it? She should have
really the problem that they have with it in the first place is interacting with this person at all in any context.
Look, like all Gersh should have said is like, but did you die though? Like these two had a conversation. The world didn't end. Maybe some shitty viewpoints got shared to people, but then you don't have a lot of faith in humanity if you think that people's shitty viewpoints. That's just what I'm assuming. That's what I'm assuming his take on it is that these are shitty viewpoints. I don't listen to him. I know that he's extremely charismatic and people like a lot of what he has to say. But if you disagree with him, then you should, point out where he's wrong.
Well, they even mention in the article that the episode itself got only a couple 100,000 views.
That's kind of shocking.
And because it was behind their paywall on Patreon. And then when it was reposted on YouTube, it also got similar views.
But then it gets banned or it gets
deplatformed anyway. So he's not even reacting to this episode that's getting millions of views and blowing up everywhere.
They've turned this kid into the ultimate boogeyman.
They have, yes. And Tucker Carlson is similarly getting huge pushback from within the right for his interview as well.
When I look at the people who are arguing about everybody's personal interactions between one another, I'm like, how do you people have the time and the bandwidth to do this?
Well, Trump did end up coming out and basically saying that he likes Tucker and that he doesn't want people to dictate who he's allowed to interview.
Nor should he. Like,
And
he should
was the right
talk to whoever he wants to. Like, you can complain that he doesn't push back enough, and Tucker Carlson can take that into account. But it seems like he just enjoys like putting these people on and letting him talk. Like when he had Putin on, and Putin started waxing poetic about Russian history for 3 hours.
There was literally more backlash to the Fuentes interview than the Putin interview, which is crazy. Brown emailed Dasha's agents yet again after the Fuentes interview and copied the majority owners of the talent agency, Bob and David Gersh. And he says, once again, they ignored me. He shifted strategies.
Who was the one? I'm sorry, just before we move on. Who was the one that was going really hard? Not Candace Owens, but was going really hard at Eric Kirk. Was that Kyle Kalinske?
I don't.
Whoever that was, I thought it was Secular Talk. Whoever it was, like, that dude could go on literally any podcast, despite the fact that he said stuff I found to be pretty gross, and it's not the end of the world.
Him, Destiny, Hassan Piker, all of whom have called for violence on public platforms.
I'm not going to talk to them because they're not in this sphere, and this isn't some type of debate show. Like, they're not people I want to hang out with in my life, but I'm not offended, nor should anybody else be offended that they had conversations with other people.
So Jonathan decided to post about this appearance on his Instagram stories, and in that post tagged Matt Grobar, a journalist at Deadline. And that appeared to change things internally at Gersh when they started getting concerned about media coverage.
Yeah.
Brown noticed an account for Gersh Communications began watching his Instagram stories. He's like watching his views like a hawk scrolling
I'm sorry.
through.
Any dude who knows who looks at their Instagram stories is not a dude. You're not a man. Peas. Turn in your man card if you look at who looks at your Instagram
Definitely
stories.
sits when he pees. He says then Dasha got dropped shortly after. Yeah. But he wasn't done. Several days earlier, it had been reported that Dasha was cast in Iconoclast, the feature film directing debut of actor Gabriel Basso. So this guy actually played J.D. Vance in the Hillbilly Elegy film adaptation with Amy Adams.
Yep.
And he was directing Iconoclast. He put Dasha in the cast, and Brown knew about this. He knew one of the producers of Iconoclast and texted him when the episode with Nick Fuentes was released, saying, "Be careful. Dasha just did a podcast with Nick Fuentes. Bad idea to be associated with anyone who's openly pro-Hitler." The producer then responded, "Oh, wow. The other producer is Jewish and is friends with her. IDK her." When the news broke that Gersh dropped Dasha, Jonathan Brown texted the same Iconoclast producer again, saying, "I hope you find an excellent actress to replace her." And he assured Jonathan, saying, "Yes, she is being replaced right now."
I guess my main point when I think of all of this is, like, you know, when Nick Fuentes says stuff like Hitler was right? That's what he said? That was like a tweet that I saw.
I don't know what exactly you're referencing.
As stupid as that is, I don't want to live in a world where this dude has any power either, where you go around and you micromanage other people's conversations and you use their interviews to get them fired. Like, you
Pull
suck.
up the photo of him that Dasha posted, by the way. Just when you look at this guy, it all makes sense. This guy is the ultimate hall monitor. She said, "Tremendous story about a brave man and his years-long quest to punish a podcaster who had the audacity to have a job." And he was rewarded for this behavior. And now a lot of people have said, in response to this story, woke is back. I think it actually demonstrates that woke never left. And it was a mistake for anyone to say that we were in the middle of this anti-woke vibe shift. You can't square that circle in an age where people are still getting canceled and blacklisted in various industries for things like this.
I don't think that's the fairest interpretation. When people say back, no, it never left completely, but there's always going to be lines in the sand that have been there since the beginning. Him and Alex Jones remember when YouTube was like, we're going to unban people. We're going to unban people. Everyone's going to be able to platform free speech, right? No, it's just so they can gather your data so they can make AI replicas of you, because that's what it's all coming down to at the end. It's all data farming for AI. But there was a line in the sand. The line in the sand was Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes, who tried to tried to start new YouTube channels and either weren't allowed to or were banned again, like right away.
Well, then they said, oh, but you didn't follow the rules. You're supposed to apply through our pilot program, and you didn't fill out a form.
Things have definitely shifted to a certain extent. I don't agree that. Look, there was like when I saw a thing yesterday where Bill Maher said that he's going to he's stopping comedy. Like he's not going to be doing comedy tours anymore because he doesn't want to get shot. He said by the left or the right, but we know what he means by that. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Bob's your uncle. The point is that 10 years ago, the worry would have been more that somebody with dissenting opinions, maybe not Bill Maher, because he's kind of always been on the left, that somebody with the dissenting opinions wouldn't be allowed to have a comedy special at all. Now you can have it. You just got to worry about backlash.
I don't think that's the proper benchmark to measure the state.
Do you
of
think
woke.
that regular people are still losing their jobs for like putting up the okay hand sign? That's my benchmark. Do you remember that?
No. I think the grossest excesses of woke have already peaked, and we're on the downslope from that. But woke is far from gone and dead
in Hollywood. Absolutely,
and I think that it encroached so far into our lives that just the slightest recession of wokes, it appears to be its death. But in reality, we don't even know how much ground we lost.
It's the left's version of the big ask. They're like, okay, we'll let you keep your job if you make a fake okay hand gesture, but we get to ban this lady from working in Hollywood because she interviewed the wrong person.
It's true.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.